Hello, Father Matt.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon it's a Monday.
It is a Monday.
This is
a
unique.
very nice Monday. It's not 90 degrees outside.
The reason why we're here on a Monday, usually we do our weekly email prep on Wednesdays or Thursdays. But we're here on a Monday because we're going to be prepping most of our July weekly emails and podcasts because we're going on vacation. We're leaving. You're going later this month. I'm going tomorrow. So we're going to get these all done. So I'm going to ask you 7,000 questions.
I'm ready.
Are you sure?
The answer to all of them is Jesus. See how easy that was?
Who authored the Psalms?
Jesus? Am I wrong? In a way? No.
Okay, the answer to every question is Jesus?
I mean, every time I'd come home from PSR, that's what my mom would ask, and I would just say Jesus, and she would get very upset with me.
Really?
I'm like, well, it's not wrong.
Because she didn't think that was the right answer, or just because she knew you were being lazy?
I was being lazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually a great segue into the weekly email.
It's true.
Because
Laziness.
one of our themes is the lazy days of summer. We're getting real creative
Very.
with our themes. Okay. I have a couple questions. They are all over the place, and these are good ones. I'm excited for these.
Give me a T-ball, you know?
Wiffle ball.
Wiffle ball.
Putt-putt.
Putt-putt, okay.
Okay. Spitball. It's going down. Okay. What happens if you drop communion on the floor or you spill the wine during Mass?
Well, if you drop the host, you should pick it up. Really, the Eucharistic minister should probably pick it up, hold on to it, give it to the priest after communion, and the priest will properly take care of it. So I would not recommend consuming it yourself. Get a new host. If the precious blood spills, ministers should bring a purificator and put it over it to soak it into the purificator and clean it up in that route. So that's the usual way that we would do it. So
You said you would figure out a way to dispose of it. What does that mean? Like, what would you do?
So what I normally do is, there's a couple options. You can either consume it, so the priest can consume it, or you can dissolve it in water and put it down what's called the sacrarium. There's your lingo word for the day. It's a sink in the back that goes directly into the ground, and so because something is blessed or something as sacred as the Eucharist, you don't want it through plumbing,
Landfills.
obviously, so it goes right into the ground. So those are the two primary ways to dispose of it.
Does that happen a lot?
Occasionally, yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's just humans. We're going to drop stuff.
Yeah, we are. It does happen periodically.
I wonder, if anybody, I'm sure it's happened, that they've, knocked over the chalice on the altar. It's gone flying.
Maybe it's possible. I'm
That'd
sure
be-
somewhere it's happened. Yeah.
That would be embarrassing. We are obviously not the only planet out there in the solar system. So why did God choose Earth? I mean, I actually, here, let's get your thoughts. Do you think there's life on other planets?
I think there is.
I mean, I think it's too big
Yeah.
to just have it's just this time. Have you ever
All
seen
of the cosmos we're the only one
we're
with life.
tiny
I
little
don't know.
galaxy, Milky Way. If I've ever seen where they keep expanding out,
Yeah.
from the Milky Way then to the next galaxy, and it's we're so insignificant.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I don't think the church has an official teaching on this as far as I know, but I would say with science and reason and what we know, which the Lord obviously gave us the gift of intellect to know things.
Some people.
Some people, yeah. In my personal opinion, I don't know if anyone could reasonably, logically claim that this is the only place.
Sustainable place to have life.
Yeah, I mean, even scientists have said, I think on Mars there's been some form of life somewhere,
Water.
So why did he pick Earth? Why would he allow that? I don't know the answer to that. I think, to me, it shows his grandiosity as the creator. God can do whatever he wants to do. So what we do know is what we need to know in terms of our own salvation, in terms of humanity being the pinnacle of all of creation, made in his image and likeness, unlike any other form of life. So there's a lot of mysterious stuff out there, scientifically, cosmologically.
Is that a word?
I don't know, it is today. don't look it up, though.
What was it? Cosmologically?
Cosmologically? I think that's a word, yeah.
I will Google it later, and I will put the
Yeah.
answer on the screen.
Yeah, that's probably.
God is our loving Father. He loved us so much that he gave us his only Son. Then why would God ever want us to suffer in hell?
Okay. So first thing I would say is God does not will suffering. So suffering is a result of our own sinfulness, our own folly. So anytime that we sin, there is a consequence to that, obviously. And so we have brought that upon ourselves. So any suffering and pain is not from God, but is permitted by him. Of course, the manifestation of all of that is hell, which from a theological standpoint is complete isolation from God. God does not will that on anybody. Basically, I would say anybody who is in hell, if there is anybody, we don't know, it's kind of a choice in some regard, because anytime that we sin, it's a choice, a deliberate act of the will to reject God and his commandments. And so hell, in a sense, is the eternal manifestation of the total rejection of God, which is a choice that anybody can make, really. So we know the law of God, we know his commandments. If we choose to reject that, then we are, in a sense, separating ourselves from him.
We're making the choice.
Right, we're making the choice. So God doesn't send people there. In a sense, we kind of send ourselves there, if that makes sense.
You said God permits suffering. Why, if he loves us so much?
God permits suffering for a couple of reasons. One is so there's a greater good that can come about through suffering. So the cross is a good example. God permitted that horrific event to happen. Why? So that we have the salvation of our souls. Also, I would say anything of value in life only has value because of suffering. If it didn't have any suffering, everybody would do it, and if everybody does it, it would be super easy. And
Pure bliss all the
there's
time.
no value, right?
Yeah.
But when something's hard and difficult, and you go through pain and suffering to achieve it, that's what adds value. So we can grow a lot from it, even though in the midst of it, it doesn't always seem that that's the case.
If you haven't gone to confession in decades, how do you do it? It feels ridiculous to try and name all of my sins, especially knowing that other people are waiting for me to finish and there isn't unlimited time. Unlimited time? You need unlimited time to name all your sins? I think that's a great question, though.
It is.
Because a lot of people are extremely afraid to go to confession, especially the longer you stay away, the
Right.
scarier it gets, right?
True.
I love this question. Whoever submitted this, and it's anonymous, I love that you asked that. Good for you.
Yeah, not an uncommon thing. I would say if it's been a while, ideally, I would recommend setting up an appointment with a priest. That way, you don't have to worry about how much time you're taking. It can be very deliberate, very, very, what's the word I want?
Thorough.
Thorough, right. You can just walk through it gently together.
What if it's too intimidating? Like, I'm trying to put myself in the perspective of somebody that has not gone to confession since their first reconciliation. And they're, in their 30s.
Well, I've had this happen before. So let's say you don't want to go face to face because that's too intimidating. I've had it where someone would call and I would schedule a time somewhere in the week, and I would say, let's say for example, Thursday at 3:00. I would tell them I'll be in my confessional Thursday at 3. You come in, I'll be behind the screen, you won't see me, I'll know it's whoever you are, and then we can just do it that way. And then afterwards I'll say I'm going to stay in here for like 5 minutes, give them enough time to leave, and then we kind of keep it anonymous. So I've done that as well. So I think either way is good, whatever you're more comfortable with. And just tell the priest right away, like, it's been a while, I haven't done it, and the priest is more than happy to walk through the whole thing with you. There's nothing to worry about.
I think almost people don't know what to say. What do you say if you haven't been there in 40 years?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, too. So you want to be as full and integral as possible within reason. So ideally...
When I was 7, I stole a dum-dum.
No. Like, I don't need, especially if it's been decades as an example, you're not going to remember the exact number of times you did something, or you're not going to remember all the sins you've committed, right? That's practically impossible. So what I tell people is if you're doing a long-term confession, I think it's best to break it up into sections. So like if you were in your youth, in your young adulthood, as a middle-aged person.
That's a good idea.
And then you reference the sins you've done during that time. I'm not a stickler personally on numbers. I think it's best to just say a few times, periodically, many times. I'm not going to be caught up in the numbers exactly. But whether you commit a sin once or 100 times, that does matter.
Regularly, yeah.
Right. So it just depends on how long it's been. But it's okay to be a little general in that regard. And the Lord understands that.
I think that tip of breaking it into sections of your life is like a very good way to help you not feel so overwhelmed.
Yeah, and you kind of know what was going on in your life
right.
at that time.
Everybody's going to reference their 20s.
Right. Yeah. Your 20s are going to be different than your 50s.
Right.
Let's hope anyway.
Yeah, right. Let's hope you're not in your 50s and it's just like your 20s. I liked that question. Are you ready for Stump the Priest?
Sure.
Sure?
I don't know.
Is it going to be a trick question?
Alligator?
It's not about alligator.
Platypus or something?
Did you just say platypus? What are you talking about?
Know.
Platypus?
Yeah.
Is it acceptable to consume iguana on Fridays during Lent?
These questions.
I like watching your facial expression.
What, in like some particular diocese that, no,
not in a
just
particular
in general.
diocese. In general.
Iguana.
Is it acceptable?
Is that the one with like the two eyes that move around? Or is that in a chameleon?
Well, a lot of animals have two eyes that move around.
But they're not in sync. They're not in sync.
It's going to shock you. We have two eyes that move around.
Like the 90s band. They're not in sync.
Yes.
Cheesy joke. Okay, iguana. Can you eat an iguana?
Picture an iguana.
Are they a water animal?
Iguanas. Okay, so again, I'm not like an expert. But I do know the answer to this. But iguanas are the ones they're like on trees and they change color to match in with the tree, right? Isn't that it?
Isn't
or
that
is that a
chameleon? Is that chameleon?
You know what we need to do? We need to bone up on our veterinary.
Is that the one with the tongue that gets the flies and stuff?
I think they're all kind of like that.
I think it's all iguanas. They're all
No,
iguanas.
I think they're all just like part of that.
The family of lizards.
Lizards? Are they lizards?
I'm going to say yes, you can eat iguana.
No!
It's a no.
I cannot believe the one time you say yes.
I can believe it.
The one time you say yes, you were wrong.
This is the story of my life.
It really is.
Yep.
It's the story of Stump the Priest. That's what it is.
That's right.
Do you know why you cannot?
I have no clue.
You were kind of right. You used to be able to eat iguanas during Lent, especially in Nicaragua.
Of course.
Where they are prized and they are considered white meat. Now, iguana is a reptile. By the way, podcast listeners, I am not an expert. I am reading off of a
Wikipedia page.
Article. No, not Wikipedia. I have to do deep dives on these. I do learn a lot. In Nicaragua and in other parts of Central and South America, iguanas are eaten all the time. But because they're highly prized, guess what started to happen to the iguanas?
Endangered.
Population went way down, and they were like, you know what? How about we don't eat iguanas anymore just to save the iguanas?
Gotcha.
You're too many iguanas. You're eating them on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. You can eat them every day. You're just eating iguanas all the time. So because they're especially vulnerable, they've decided not to allow them to save the iguanas.
Now you know.
And the more you know, yeah. So can you eat iguanas during Lent?
No.
Could you used to eat iguanas?
Yes.
Will we have iguanas on our 2025 Lenten fish fry menu as a special?
As an appetizer before the platypus, yes.
We haven't even talked about platypus yet.
Maybe that's next time.
All right, Father Matt. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground here. We went from
cosmological arguments to platypuses to all sorts of things.
But now that we finished recording, I'm going to separate this into a couple different episodes, and they'll go out periodically through July. Because in July, like I said, we're both going to be on vacation at different times, and it would be hard to get these done weekly.
Right.
But you'll see us back in the fall.
We'll be back.
We will definitely be back in the fall, and we're looking forward to it. I have many questions. I have many animals. It's platypus, not platypus.
Oh, platypus?
Platypus.
Plat for short.
Let's just have this be the podcast.
Can you eat plat? I don't know. On Fridays during
Let's just have this whole sentence that we just did. That's the podcast.
That'd be great.
Just platypus
I think
talk.
we would double our subscribers.
We would double our viewers.